أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها المزمل قم الليل إلا قليلا نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا إنا سنلقي عليك قولا ثقيلا إن ناشئة الليل هي أشد وطئا وأقوم قيلا إن لك في النهار سبحا طويلا واذكر اسم ربك وتبتل إليه تبتيلا رب المشرق والمغرب لا إله إلا هو فاتخذه وكيلا واصبر على ما يقولون واهجرهم هجرا جميلا وذرني والمكذبين أولي النعمة ومهلهم قليلا إن لدينا أنكالا وجحيما وطعاما ذا غصة وعذابا أليما يوم ترجف الأرض والجبال وكانت الجبال كثيبا مهيلا إنا أرسلنا إليكم رسولا شاهدا عليكم كما أرسلنا إلى فرعون رسولا فعصى فرعون الرسول فأخذناه أخذا وبيلا فكيف تتقون إن كفرتم يوما يجعل الولدان شيبا السماء منفطر به كان وعده مفعولا إن هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيلا إن ربك يعلم أنك تقوم أدنى من ثلثي الليل ونصفه وثلثه وطائفة من الذين معك والله يقدر الليل والنهار علم أن لن تحصوه فتاب عليكم فاقرؤوا ما تيسر من القرآن علم أن سيكون منكم مرضى وآخرون يضربون في الأرض يبتغون من فضل الله وآخرون يقاتلون في سبيل الله فاقرؤوا ما تيسر منه وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأقرضوا الله قرضا حسنا وما تقدموا لأنفسكم من خير تجدوه عند الله هو خيرا وأعظم أجرا واستغفروا الله إن الله غفور رحيم صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات
محمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
باردك صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
हाय सुगरा बता क्या लिखूं صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، تیرا بابا غریب ہو گیا، تیرا بابا غریب ہو گیا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، آندھیاں میرا گھر لے گئیں، میرے لختے جگر لے گئیں، میرا نور نظر لے گئیں، میرا نور نظر لے گئیں، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، خط تیرا اب سناؤں کسے، کون میری صدا پر اٹھے، شب کو جاگے ہوئے سو گئے، شب کو جاگے ہوئے سو گئے، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا وہ بھائی تیرا جس نے تجھ سے تھا وعدہ کیا، کھا گئی اس کو کرب و بلا، کھا گئی اس کو کرب و بلا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، پیار تو نے ہے جس کو لکھا، گھٹنیوں بھی جو نہ چل سکا، ہاں وہ اصغر بھی اب نہ رہا، ہاں وہ اصغر بھی اب نہ رہا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، اب سکینہ کا حافظ خدا وقت زینب پہ بھی ہے کڑا، مجھ کو گھیرے ہوئے ہے قضا، مجھ کو گھیرے ہوئے ہے قضا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، خط وہ ریحان و سرور تھا کیا، خاک سے میرا مولا اٹھا، لاش اکبر پہ خط رکھ دیا، لاش اکبر پہ خط رکھ دیا، اور اس کے سوا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں، ہائے صغرا بتا کیا لکھوں۔ بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔ بار دیگر صلوات۔ گھوڑے سے جب کہ قاسم گلگو قبا گرا، غل پڑ گیا نبی رے مشکل کشا گرا، سب در جری بہادرو شیر وغا گرا، خون میں نہا کے لختے دل مجتبی گرا، خون میں نہا کے لختے دل مجتبی گرا، گرتے ہی فوج ظلم کا مجمع بہم ہوا، زخمی پہ آنر گئے فوج ستم ہوا، زخمی پہ آنر گئے فوج ستم ہوا، مارا کسی نے پشت پہ نیزے کو تان کے، کھٹکی سے نان ظلم کلیجے میں آن کے، کوئی تبر لگا گیا مظلوم جان کے، تیغا کسی کا چل گیا سر پر جوان کے، تیغا کسی کا چل گیا سر پر جوان کے، پہلو بھی دونوں ہاتھ بھی یکسر فگار تھے، دولہا کا ایک جسم تھا ہر بے ہزار تھے، دولہا کا ایک جسم تھا ہر بے ہزار تھے، حضرت کو دی صدا کے چچا جان آئیے، خادم ہوا حضور پہ قربان آئیے، دنیا میں کوئی دم کا ہوں مہمان آئیے، سر کاٹنے کا ہوتا ہے سامان آئیے، سر کاٹنے کا ہوتا ہے سامان آئیے، جلاد پہنچتے گئے دو پے کر لیے ہوئے، قاتل کھڑے ہیں ہاتھوں میں خنجر لیے ہوئے، قاتل کھڑے ہیں ہاتھوں میں خنجر لیے ہوئے، دم توڑنے لگا جو یہ کہہ کر وہ دل فگار، طبلِ ظفر بجا صفِ آدھا میں ایک بار، دوڑے ادھر سے تیغ بکف شاہ نامدار، گھوڑوں سے روندنے لگے لاشے کو وہاں سوار، گھوڑوں لگے لاشیں کو وہاں سب ٹکڑے ٹکڑے سینے پر نور ہو گیا، ٹاپوں سے مرکبوں کے بدن چور ہو گیا، ٹاپوں سے مرکبوں کے بدن چور ہو گیا۔ پہنچے حسین لاش پہ جس دم بچشم نم، اٹکا ہوا تھا آنکھوں میں ابن حسن کا دم، سر اپنا پیٹ کر یہ پکارے شہ قاسم اٹھو کے آئے ہیں ملنے کو تم سے ہم، قاسم اٹھو کے آئے ہیں ملنے کو تم سے ہم، موڑو ناک فاطمہ کے نور عین سے، باتیں تو کچھ کرو دم آخر حسین سے، باتیں تو کچھ کرو دم آخر حسین سے، کیا بولتے کہ موت نے تھا بے خبر کیا، سیدھی ناک کی نام اپنا ادھر کیا، ہچکی کے درد نے تہو بالا جگر کیا، بس مسکرا کے باغ جہاں سے سفر کیا، بس مسکرا کے باغ جہاں سے سفر کیا، حضرت چلے اٹھا کے تنے پاش پاش کو، کاندھا دیا چچا نے بھتیجے کی لاش کو، کاندھا دیا چچا نے بھتیجے کی لاش کو، گھوڑے سے جب کہ قاسم گلگو قبا گرا، پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
صلوات۔ Today I'm going to present the Maktab of Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam. Just a quick word. Yesterday I talked about some classical references. Again, some of the riders and some of the fighters in Yazid's army were Syrians. They were raised in the Roman camp and they had Greek education. So they refer quite a bit to what they knew in their schools. So here we refer to Apollo. And for those of you who don't know any Greek mythology, which you should, but you don't know any Greek mythology, Apollo was known for being a very beautiful young man who was the epitome of youth. And he was the most beautiful young man, the most beautiful youth that the Greeks had ever seen. So he was seen as that epitome, and they used to carve him in that form. And you can see that influence in lots of art. So I thought I'd point that out because I'm going to use some names, and you may not recognize them, that are very Greek. Salawat. The Shah wonders when Qasim had bloomed into Hassan. Such delicacy that Qasim presents as one made, not born. If the glimmer of his eyes and the flame of youth did not swear to his life force, men would proclaim him a piece of moonstone, carved into studied form as if to state, of which of his bounties would you deny? Such fine hands, callow poised, that even the softest Indic cloth would seem like worn hemp. But such is the time that this gossamer child stands struggling with his helm and shield, tangled in his chainmail and gear. And Hussain must contemplate his loss. My Aqa, my Sayyid, my Imam, the time has come. I must join battle. Please grant me permission. Hassan ibn Ali's sword drags along the floor as the young man steadies himself. Wretched is the Shah that sees his beloved like this. How have you made me so destitute, Karbala, that my brother's eyes, his voice, his heart stand before me now? The Shah's skin, already cut with rivers of tears, glistens once more. Qasim's strength buckles under the weight. The full cataphract armor is made for mighty Hussainian warriors, cured in Zul-Khans, not for a boy whose chest is smaller than the helm. Qasim hides his struggle as best as he can from the Shah. No, you are like my Hassan. I cannot let you go yet. Qasim is young. The impatience burns, eats at him. But a child of Banu Hashim knows the Imam's word is law, so he stands as straight as his pride will let him and heads back to his mother's tent. Farwa comes to see her son. He is stood in the middle of his tent, his father's blade balanced in his hands, eyes closed, silent. Then he begins to spread his arms like a hawk taking wing, grace flowing from tip to toe till the blade circles as if hovering, waiting for its prey until it swoops and dives for the hunt. The blade vanishing into sound and light such as only the air seems to left to resist it, but then it falters. The shoulders collapse, tears fill his eyes, and she knows the Imam's will. Then Farwa remembers Hassan's hands grasping small sealed parchment, which he tied in a green cotton pouch to the infant Qasim. Even though Hassan's breath was speckled with blood as the poison raged through him, laced with pain, Hassan had held on to Farwa, forcing a whisper through his cord lungs, Hussein will need me. They will come one day. They will howl like jackals. On that day, open these gifts I give you. And she desperately grasped the pouch. Farwa places a gentle hand on Qasim as he lies lax on his bed, eyes closed. If only I was older and stronger, none would stop me inflicting my furious rage on those that have murdered our house. I have lived waiting to show my love for the Shah. I have dreamed of days where I would uproot this vile forest of cankerous weeds that creep and infect all those around. Does not my Sayyid know I am ready? Does Mawla not know that I am also a son of Ali? I also have some of his skill and some of his heart. If only I was taller. If only I was older. If only my father. He shuts his jaw firmly. The waves of anguish too much to bear. Farwa knows the orphan child prays for the father taken from him, and she sighs. The light of my eyes look to the votive that you have carried since you were a child, the one bound around your arm. Remember I told you that it was a prayer from your father. And Qasim reaches for the green pouch he has worn like a shield, held like a father's arms. He removes it and unwraps the green cloth. Immediately a glorious scent fills him, like an explosion of delight, which he knows is from Hassan's gracious hands. Greedily he deposits the contents on the bed. The pouch yields 2 treasures, 1 letter marked for him, 1 for the Imam. And Qasim bursts forth uncaged. He takes his letter and places it on his eyes. Even in this heat, he can feel Hassan's cool touch brushing his hair. He kisses it again, and he sighs as he remembers. The letter begins, My beloved, you are my champion. The Shah waits. The decimation of his house pulls tears from salt. As each Ansar leaves and Hussein bears him back to camp, he prays, looks up, only to see Qasim. The hawk seems perched for flight, poised on his toes, watching intently. And behind him stands Farwa, but above all, he can sense Hassan. He can feel his shape. He closes his eyes, and his beloved brother forms in front of his mind's eye as a scent comes to him. Then he opens his eyes and finds a letter. On the letter is Hassan's hand, gracing his name. The Shah takes the letter and kisses it, holds it against his face as if he is holding Hassan's face, and they are running together, sat on the Prophet's shoulders, laughing, and all the aches leave him for a moment, just a moment. As he studies the writing, he sees Hassan, old Hassan, dying Hassan, liver torn by arsenic, forcing each word into existence before his strength fails him and Azrael takes him. The Shah begins to read and hears that beloved voice say, "My brother, the day will come, arrows will fall around you." After reading the letter, the Shah collapses onto his seat, then looks at Qasim and asks, "What is death to you, my child?" Qasim, the smile spreading, answers, "Sweeter than honey, my Aqa." Qasim rides as if a cloud has taken him. When he arrives, some of the Syrians gasp. In school, their hands had ached scratching out the Scuderia that bloomed with tales of Leto's son Apollo. Some had seen him in old Rome, poured into marble as the Pythian. Yet nothing had prepared them for the ultimate boy, the Helios they beheld before him. Qasim, present yet sublime, a shape of a man, an impression of a boy, unarmored, bathed in the pristine robes of a groom, shorn too early from his bride. Bin Saad calls Azrak, "Crush this boy." Azrak glowers back at Saad. "Saad, you get above yourself. I am the pride of my clan and of the Arabs. Why do you choose to insult me like this?" Shimmer smirks. "You fat fool, I told you these are the Banu Hashim. That child's sword dances to Abbas's rhythm." Azrak pushes out his chest. "And are we not equal to the Banu Hashim? My sons are feared more than your warriors. We play with you 10 at a time before battle." Saad snaps back, "So send one, at least one child out of the two of them will stop mewling." Azrak's youngest sees the signal, mounts his horse and gallops forward, lance spinning on his back, battle cries drawing the eye as the charge gathered. Qasim sits serene, waiting, a mirage. Qasim is the son of Ali. Ali, who fought the jinn, whose blade, when seen, was lightning boring through hundreds, who was always moving, yet as still as frost. There is a flash as the two pass, then silence. The horse falters to a stop, and Azrak gasps as his youngest falls cloven. Qasim is poised, still, as if in another time. Azrak can barely speak, but now each son, screeching vengeance, mounts a horse, and one by one Qasim cuts them down. Of the 5 that came, none remain. Azrak spits fury and tears, rage engulfs him, his sinews are on fire, and he calls for his mace. He mounts his horse, 2 men hand him his fearful gavel, and he rides, swinging it like a giant's toy. But Qasim is justice, and the brute is carved into oblivion as he charges. Shimmer smirks, but raises himself into his saddle. Azrak was mightier than many of you, yet he lies in pieces. Now do you see? These are the Banu Hashim. Surround, subdue, and overwhelm the boy. And with that, Saad orders the attack. Horsemen flood Qasim, archers let loose, yet Qasim is like rain dancing on pebbles, swift, sure, painting with his blade remembrances of his father. Each stroke the calligraphy of Haqq, but the swirl of heavy horse begins to crash into waves, and for every blow struck, more he cannot stave, and the deluge is too much, and he falters. This rose, caressed by henna, is splayed from his saddle and falls on the sand. Mighty, Though his warrior's heart is, instinct prevails. The orphan child calls for his uncle. Hussain hears him, charging forward, and in the chaos of horses shod for war, with no armor to encase him, Qasim is rent asunder by spiked hooves. Hussain arrives to find the bloom of Hassan's house scattered across the ground, and he sobs, "So comes to you the taste of honey, my child." Cradling Qasim as the boy fades, the Shah rises, whispering, "Karbala, what garlands do you give me on Qasim's wedding day?" as he picks up each torn petal of Qasim's broken body and wraps them in his cloak. Salawat.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome, thank you very much for joining us for our continuing series of Muharram Majalis here in Baab-Ul-Ilm with Samahat Dr Ali Al Hilli. As always, we are honoured to have him for these 10 nights speaking on the topic or the broad theme of comprehending the Hussaini mind. Tonight's lecture will be entitled Practicing Daily Gratitude. So a couple of bits of admin. There's no Q&A today, unfortunately, so you'll have to join us tomorrow for that. We'll be reciting, or can we please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumin of Dr. Awan and Mrs. Nadia Arwan, who are the sponsors of tonight's niyaz, and we'll start with the Surah Al-Fatiha. And there's a request for dua for Sister Nasim Raza Moji in Birmingham, who's not well, so we'll be reciting dua shifa, that's the dua amman yujib al-muttara idha da'ahu wa yakshifu sur, 5 times from the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujib al-muttara idha da'ahu wa yakshifu sur. Amman yujib al-muttara idha da'ahu wa yakshifu sur. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Inshallah, Allah give shifa to her and all our ill and unwell members of our communities and the Muslim community. And with that, we'd like to welcome Samahat Doctor with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الله. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة خلق الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة ورحمة الله وبركاته. Together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على التسعة المعصومين المطهرين من ذرية الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. My dear sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. An individual with the name of Zaid is a 40-year-old property developer. He earns around £150,000 a year. He owns a very big house, a detached house. He has several cars. He has a very good family. They're all in very good health. At the same time, this individual Zaid is not finding any joy in his life. He's not content with what he has. Another lady called Zahra, she is an individual who is 35 years old. She is someone who has lost her husband due to a car accident, but she has 4 children, so she is a single mother. She earns £35,000 a year, but she always gives to the needy. She always cares about the community. She always tries to give as much as she can in terms of her wealth and in terms of her time. But she's also content, and she tries to look for happiness. But there is one thing that Zahra does that Zaid does not do, which is that she is in a state of gratitude. She is someone who constantly does shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With the little that she has, with the difficulties that she is going through, with raising 4 children by herself, living in a small house with very little income, she still has the ability to be in a state of gratitude. But while she's being in that particular state, she finds joy, she finds happiness. Yes? This, my dear brothers and sisters, is a scenario that is very much typical in our communities. That I know individuals who are extremely wealthy, but unfortunately that they do not give back to the community. In fact, there are individuals who tell me they just can't give back. They just can't give to charity. And it's very important we ask the question why. It's not that they don't have the financial ability to give, but perhaps they are not in a state of gratitude. And we know that there are individuals out there who are not so fortunate financially and are going through lots of difficulties, either in terms of their wealth, in terms of their health, in terms of their family situations, but they are in a state of gratitude. They are in a state of shukr. Now, with your permission, inshallah, we're going to examine this particular state, the state of gratitude, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of highly in the Holy Quran. Around 50 times He mentions gratitude, shukr. Yes? And it's important that we highlight this as we are progressing in our series of comprehending the Hussaini mind. That we are looking at the mind, we are looking at the soul, and how can we make sure that we enrich our soul by developing our mind. And one of the things that helps us to do so is being in that particular state, the state of gratitude. Now, if we go to the Holy Quran, chapter 76, Suratul Insan. Yes? Remember, you must be very bored of me saying this, but I'll repeat it, that it's important we take note of the Holy Quran. I intentionally show you verses of the Holy Quran because the mission of Hussein is a mission of the Quran. It's for us to go back to the Quran, not how it was at the time of Bani Umayyah. Yes? But for us to go back to the Quran and interpret it in the path like how the AhlulBayt salamullahi alayhim interpreted it. Correct? So, chapter 76, Surah Al-Insan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the first verse. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks a question right at the start. He says, well, has there not come a time, has there not come upon man a period of time, yes, when he was nothing? شيئا مذكورا. But when he was nothing, we have brought him forward. We have given him importance. We have given him a presence. Yes? He was nothing. The insan was nothing. And there was a time when he was nothing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us importance. Gave us a presence in this life. Yes? How, O Allah, he goes to the second verse. Says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِن نُطْفَةٍ أَمْشَاجٍ نَبْتَلِيهِ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. He says, yes, I have brought you into presence in this world. Yes? And how خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ, I have created the human being مِن نُطْفَةٍ. What is nutfa? Nutfa is a sperm. We're all created from just a sperm. Yes? And we know that a man carries millions of sperms. But we were created from one sperm. Yes? So min nutfatin amshajin. Amshajin is the mixture of the sperm with the egg. Yes? The ovary. Amshajin nabtali. Then when he becomes baligh, so the mother gives birth to this individual, yes, and then they grow and they become baligh. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Nabtali. Then the purpose is what? The purpose is to get him closer to me. Yes, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through trials and through tests. Nabtali. He's going to go through trials. He's going to go through tests. He's going to go through calamities. Nabtali. This is the insan. فَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this insan. And He gave him what? He gave him ability to hear and to see. And to use these abilities in the best possible way through life and through these calamities. Now, the next verse is what's interesting. The next verse says the following. He says, إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلِ. Every human being who has gone through bulugh and is now in a state of nabtali, in a state of calamity, state of being tested. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have shown him or her the sabil. Sabil is what? It's the right path. I've shown him the right path. I've given him the eyes. I've given him the ability to hear. You can see the right path. You can hear the right path. Right? I've given him all the attributes needed for him to know the right path. But some people go one way and the other go the other way. Which are these two ways? إِمَّا شَاكِرًا أو إِمَّا كَفُورًا. One or the other way. You are either this individual who is grateful, or you're someone who's ungrateful. That's it. There's no middle ground. No middle ground. There's no shades of grey. It's black and white. Yes? You're either grateful or you're ungrateful. Question. Ask yourself this question. Are you an individual who is grateful or not? Because there's no middle ground. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have said, إِمَّا شَاكِرًا أو إِمَّا فِي الْوَسَطِ, in the middle, أو إِمَّا كَفُورًا. No, it's either إِمَّا شَاكِرًا أو إِمَّا كَفُورًا. Are you an individual who is grateful for the ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon you? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not require your shukr. He doesn't require your shukr, does he? Does Allah He needs us to be grateful so that He becomes complete? No, of course not. Allah is all complete. But وَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, we'll come to this later. If you are grateful, I will increase. I will give you more. If you are grateful, I'll give you more for you, not for me. I am complete, but I'll give you more. But I just want you to come to me, because part of the system of being grateful is for you to come back to Allah. It's a bit like repentance, isn't it? It's a bit like maghfirah. You come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Gratefulness. So ask yourself, reflect. Are you grateful or ungrateful? One or the other. Some people might say, sometimes I'm grateful, sometimes I'm not. But a true mu'min of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in that particular state, the state of shukr. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. In chapter 16, verse 78, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, by the way, there's lots of verses, and I've chosen just a few. Yes? وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُمْ مِن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken you out, or your mother has given birth to you. Yes? لا تعلمون شيئا. You do not know anything. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ. And He's created what? He's created the ability to hear, the ability to see, and you've got the qalb, yes, al-af'idah, to do what? So that, what's the purpose of all this, O Allah? Why did you create us? Why did you give us all these particular attributes? These attributes of seeing, attributes of hearing, attributes of intellect, of qalb. Why? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So that you can be grateful. Can you see the important status of gratitude in Islam? It's the purpose. It's our purpose. Again, not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, well, it's not for me. It's for you to come close to me. You want to come close to me? Be in a state of shukr. That's our mission, isn't it? What's the point of life then? Why were we born? What's the purpose? Yes? For us to get closer to God. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 31, verse 14, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. Yes? So the next one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving advice to us, and he says, take care of your parents, the children, my younger brothers and sisters, take care of your parents. Yes? وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. Don't forget, guys, especially the younger ones, your mom went through a lot of pain to give birth to you. Yes? She went through a lot of pain. And maybe sometimes you are a pain. You know, you can be a pain. Still, after she gave birth to you, you're still a pain. You were a pain right inside her, and then when you were born, you're still a pain. Right? وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ. Yes, this one. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. Right? She carried him weakness upon weakness. She was weak. وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ. It took 2 years. Yes? And his weaning is in 2 years. Then what? أَنِشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. What's interesting in this particular verse, if we talk about parents, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, be grateful to me and your parents. First thing, be grateful to me. Yes? أَنِشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ. Also be grateful to your parents. Because your mother carried you for a very, very long time and she was in pain. Yes? And so you are grateful always, even if your parents are not so great towards you. Even if your parents sometimes say certain things that you might distress you or you dislike, still we must be grateful to our parents. That's the respect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us to apply. Correct? Yes? إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. Chapter 27, verse 19. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Who? Sulaiman. What happened when the ant saw the soldiers, Sulaiman and his soldiers are coming towards them, right? The ants were like, oh my God, he's going to crush us. So what does this particular ant say? Said, he's going to come and crush us. Of course, Sulaiman heard the ant. Yes, he had that ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that ability. So what did Sulaiman do? فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا. Right? He smiled, amused at her speech. مِنْ قَوْلِهَا وَقَالَ رَبِّي أَوْزِعْنِي. This is a dua that we must always recite in our qunut, in our daily life. رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ وَعَلَى وَالِدَيَّ وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأدخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. It's a dua. You can read it later on. Yes? It's a dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written in the Quran, and it's the word of Sulaiman when he was grateful for what Allah has given him, the ability that Allah has given him. Certain people have different people have different abilities. MashaAllah, the brothers, they have a great method of doing Noha. There are other individuals who are community leaders, who have the ability to be community leaders. There are others who want to be in the background, and they say, well, just, I can do the work in the background, in the kitchen, whatever. There are people who are good at graphic design. There are lots of people have different skills. And Sulaiman had an ability to hear the animals. So he said, Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka. Yes? So therefore, that is an important dua that we must apply. Now, what is shukr? What is gratitude? Now, there are many definitions. Of course, when you talk about thankfulness, talk about always being in the state of gratitude, any blessings that you have, you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. But one of the best definitions I've seen, and I'm going to show it to you, is actually this. Imagine that you are wearing glasses, right? And the lens is gratitude. You are wearing a glasses which is, you will see the world through rosy colors. You see everything as rosy. Yeah? Sometimes when you have distractions, worldly matters, you get this. Did I bring it? Oh, this one, yeah. You wipe your glasses with it. You wipe your glasses. You just got to wipe your glasses with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With what? With the salah, with the siyam, with the dua. But you still have the gratitude lens. You see. Correct? Imagine this particular lens, you see everything rosy in front of you. Yes, you will encounter calamities. نَبْتَلِيهِ. Do you remember that particular verse? Surah Al-Insan, verse 2. نَبْتَلِيهِ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. But you always have that lens of gratitude. In every single situation, you do see it being rosy. Imagine if you're always wearing dark sunglasses, inside and outside. Just everything is dark. No, you need to change that particular spectacle and you need to change the lens to a gratitude lens. What do we mean? We mean that in every situation in your life, whether good or bad, whether calamity or no calamity, whether it's a blessing or no blessing, you are in a state of gratitude. Shukran lillah. I missed that bus. I was running for the bus and the bus driver didn't stop. Shukran lillah. Shukran lillah. That was probably the best for me. You never know. Yes? I wasn't successful in that particular business venture. Shukran lillah. Alhamdulillah. Praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? That is the state of gratitude. That is the state of this particular individual we talked about at the start of our talk. This individual, Zahra. With the little that she had, still she had that particular lens where she can see the good, and so she thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. There's always something that is good. Yes, we said you see the bad, you thank Allah, but there's always something that is good, isn't it? And that's what we talked about yesterday, looking into something that is positive, being optimistic. Yes, there's always something that you can choose in your life that you can be grateful for. And don't tell me that you don't. And so, when we look at, for example, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Nabi Dawood salamullahi alayhi, chapter 34, verse 13. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. He said what? He said, work, O the family of Dawood, in gratitude. So gratitude in action. So whatever I do in my life, it is a form, good thing I do, I have to be in that state of gratitude. But what's interesting after that? He said what? He said, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Do you remember a few days ago where we talked about وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. The majority of people who claim to say that we are mu'mineen, like us, are actually mushrikun. Yes? And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's like regrettably he's saying, the tone it sounds regrettably, right? Regrettably, قَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Only very few of my ibad. So he didn't say, all my ibad are in a state of gratitude, but my ibad are only a small number anyway. No, he said, a small number of the people who are my ibad, my servants, yes, are what? Are in a state of gratitude. Regrettably, unfortunately. Yeah? And this is a reminder for us, of course, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, where are you? Where have you been? These are the verses of the Quran. Be in a state of gratitude. That's the purpose. The purpose is to be in a state of gratitude. The next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, chapter 17, verse number 3. Says, ذُرِّيَّةً مَنْ حَمَلْنَا مَعَ نُوحٍ. Descendants of those carried with Nuh salamullahi alayhi. And he describes who Nuh was in one very simple sentence. إِنَّهُ كَانَ عَبْدًا what? عَبْدًا what? عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Nuh was an abd who was shakur. Ask yourself this question, are you the abd that is shakur? Because Nuh was part of the minority, because the previous verse we said, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Now here he says, إِنَّهُ كَانَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Ask yourself this question, are you an abd who is shakur? Who you count your blessings? Is there something that you can, can you make a list of things that you are grateful for? Count your blessings. I'm sure you can find. Yes? And also, what the Quran teaches us, in fact, that's why I said is your glasses, isn't it? It's the glasses that you have, and that particular lens, keep it on. That particular lens is the lens of gratitude, because the next verse, chapter 3, verse 123, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something very interesting about shukr. Really interesting. He said, وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ. He says, talking about Badr. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you victorious. And you were what? You were quite weak, adillah, right? And then he says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Now notice, what does this mean? This means that shukr is actually a higher level of taqwa. You know, we talk a lot about taqwa. Talk a lot about God consciousness. Yes, you've all heard of millions of talks about taqwa. If you want to reach a high level of taqwa, you become in a state of gratitude. Because he is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying what? He's saying, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. You have taqwa, yes, shukr. You have taqwa and then shukr. So taqwa comes before shukr. So you gotta have taqwa and then you come at a status of a shukr. It's a higher status of shukr. Yes? So, in fact, and I'm not gonna go into it, but a bit of research, you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about ibadah, right? And the stage where you reach stage of taqwa is when you do ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, correct? Continuous ibadah, conscious ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you reach the state of taqwa. And then the next stage is what? Stage of shukr, which is also a higher level state of taqwa. So if you want to be this individual who is grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his ni'mah, then you are what? You're actually lifting yourself to a high status of taqwa. And that's what we want. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yes. In this particular verse, he says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Lots of verses of the Quran today. And that's not a bad thing. Yes, I don't want you to get bored. This is the Holy Quran. These are the words of God. And I intentionally give you lots of verses. At least choose one, reflect on, contemplate on. Yes? Inshallah, we take a lot of lessons because the shukr is emphasized a lot in the Quran. This is nothing what I've given you. Hardly anything. I've just chosen. Yes? There's huge amounts of mention of shukr, shakirin. Shukr in the Holy Quran. And as mu'mineen, as the followers of Hussain, the followers of Al Quran, we've got to ask ourselves this question. Yes, why is there so much mention of shukr? Am I in that particular state or not? But the following verses, it's really interesting because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the conversation between him and who? Shaitan. Yeah? And he says in chapter 7, verse number 13 onwards, he says, قال فاهبط منها فما يكون لك أن تتكبر فيها فاخرج إنك من الصاغرين. So then, when the shaitan was like, when he was arrogant in front of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to prostrate to Adam. He denied, he said, no, I'm not going to do this. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is kibriya, this is arrogance. When I tell you, you do it. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. After thousands of years of worshipping God. No, I'm not going to do it. Yes? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَالَ فَهْبِطْ مِنْهَا. Come down, right? فَمَا يَكُونُ. Descend from paradise, for it is not for you to be arrogant therein. فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. You are one of those who are weak, who is small. What did the shaitan say? قَالَ أَنظُرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ. He said, reprieve me. Let me work on those mu'mineen, on those guys, on those human beings that I'm supposed to prostrate on to. Yes? Until the day of judgment. قَالَ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنظَرِينَ. Okay, go. Go. Let's see which mu'min, this individual who will follow you. But what did the shaitan say? It's really interesting you pay attention to this. قَالَ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنظَرِينَ. And then he said, قَالَ فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. He said, and because you've put me in this situation, I'm going to make sure that they going to come to hellfire. Because you're going to throw me there. I'm going to bring all of them with me. I'm going to try as many as I can. Bring them. Sweep them. Right? But what's interesting, he told us about his tactic. Shaitan revealed his tactic. At the end, if I hear the whispers of the shaitan, we talked about the whispers of the shaitan, correct? And when I hear about the whispers, when I hear the whispers of the shaitan, the thoughts from the shaitan, and I actually implement it, the shaitan is saying, hey, listen, mate, well, he's not your mate, but you know what I mean. Listen, I told you about my strategy, and you still were so fool enough to accept it. I mean, imagine this, if you're going to a war with someone, and he comes and gives you the whole strategy. And he says, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do. Gives you the whole map. So here you go. Wow, that's amazing. So he gave us his strategy. But his strategy, which we will go into now, at the end says what? وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. I'm going to make sure my strategy is what? My strategy is I'm going to make sure your ibad are not going to be the ones who are grateful to you. Because that's our purpose. If he stops us from pursuing our purpose, then he's done his job. That's the shaitan saying, I've done my job. Because he was so arrogant, right? His arrogance, another explanation of this could be that the opposite of arrogance is actually shukr. Because if you practice gratitude, you are not arrogant. And if you're arrogant, you'll never practice gratitude. If you have a strong ego, you'll never practice gratitude. This was the shaitan. Yes, he never practiced gratitude. He was arrogant. Now, what did he say? He said, what's his strategy? Are you with me? Yeah? This is his strategy. This is his map. He says, guys, it's been there for 1,400 years, his strategy. How many of us have read his strategy? It's right in there. It's in your house. It's inside. It's here, on this bookshelf. He says, ثُمَّ لَآتِيَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ. I will come to them from the front. وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ. I'll come from the back. وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ. I'll come from the right. وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ. Then I'll come from the left. Basically, I'll come from all different directions. وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. When I do this, you'll see a lot of them are not going to be shakirin. And this is what God said actually. And a lot of them won't be shakirin. Yes? And unfortunately, many of us will not be shakirin. Because of what shaitan strategy, and we'll go into it. So, what do the exegesis say about this particular strategy? They say that the shaitan, when he comes, بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ, hands, right? In the front. He comes in the front. The front, it means very obvious whispers of the shaitan. Obvious stuff. Attack them from the front. His strategy is attack you from the front. Right? I will make the hereafter insignificant for you. You know, when a speaker or you read about the hereafter, you start to doubt about it. Say, oh, who said I'm going to go to hellfire? Who said I'm going to go to Jannah anyway? You know, when there are people tell you you're going to go to hellfire, and then people tell your children, oh, if you don't do this, if you don't pray, you're going to go to hellfire. And we make this world of Yawm al-Qiyamah as most people going to hellfire. Yes, we portray that to them. Yeah. So I'll make it obvious for you. You know, it's an obvious thing. He comes in the front, and I make hereafter very trivial for you. It's not something that's important. Say, hellfire. You know, who said that there is Yawm al-Qiyamah anyway? Yes? That's the obvious one. Now, وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ. And then he also comes from the back. Yes, children, you're hearing? My younger brothers and sisters? He also, shaitan, comes from the back. What does he do? He strikes fear. Yes? Because you remember we said the shaitan hates the now. Yeah? So he strikes fear for you. And what does he do? He, for example, he allows you to accumulate wealth. Remember the guy Zayd we talked about right at the start? Accumulating wealth, but then I start to save a lot of money for I call a rainy day for my children, for everything. And I do not give back because I fear that something might happen to me and my family. So I accumulate a lot of money in the bank account. You know, now they tell you savings account, there's large interest rate, savings account, open savings account, put whatever you can into it. So you just put thousands of pounds into it for a rainy day, right? And there are a lot of people on desperate need of your money. In your community and outside. Yes? But no, I've got to save. So the shaitan comes from the back and says, I'm going to strike fear of poverty so you save for your children. What if you become very poor? You've got to save a lot of money. Don't give to charity. Don't give to X, Y, and Z. Don't give to this person who's in desperate need in your community, who wants a loan. Yes? No. Save. And save more. And save more. Continuously save. Yes? And you continuously accumulate wealth and save. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Switch. And then, where does he come from? Tell me. From the right. Yes, from the right. Wa'an? No, not shimalim. Shimalim is left. Wa'an? Aymanihim. Right? Wa'an aymanihim. He comes from the right. What's your strategy, shaitan? Naughty shaitan. What's your strategy? Come from the right. Yes? He says, okay, when I come from the right, I'm going to corrupt their understanding of religion. And it's so to the point in our daily life right now. I'm going to confuse religion for them. I'm going to make sure that there are certain individuals in the community, yes, who are going to go up in the pulpit of Imam Hussain salamullahi alayhi and say things that is unfounded, that will confuse people, that I'm going to come up with stories, I'm going to come up with narrations that are very weak, right? In order for what? To confuse the next generation. In order for me to do what? In order for me to make sure I corrupt religion. And when I do that, right? When I start to, for example, I go up the minbar and I do what? And I say, well, the second Khalif was the guy responsible for establishing Daesh, creating Daesh. Yes, I cause division amongst the mu'mineen. I cause division. That's not right. It's not for us. Not for us to divide amongst the Muslims. It's for us to unite the Muslims. Yes? Correct? Whatever theological understanding we have about history, that must be respected. We'll talk about that in academic circles. We'll tell our children whatever we believe in happened in history. But I sit in the pulpit and I cause division. This is the whispers of the shaitan. It's coming to you from the right. It's causing division amongst the Muslimin. Correct? It's not right. So he comes from the right and starts to do what? Starts to divide amongst the Muslims. Starts to corrupt the religion of Islam. Now we see, for example, there are certain individuals who say it's okay for us to accept the other point of view in terms of what? In terms of Muslims should accept the issue of LGBTQ. We should accept the issue of transgender. Why don't we change our religion to accept all these particular things? We say, hang on there, hang on. Our religion says otherwise. Our belief says otherwise. We respect you. You have an opinion. You must respect our opinion too. Okay? So the shaitan comes and whispers on certain Muslims as well. Yeah? Certain Muslim MPs, certain Muslim politicians who go on pride marches. Is this okay? This is not okay, because we do not subscribe to such a belief. We respect. We do not harm these individuals. They have their opinion. We have our opinion. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينُ. The Quran says, you have your faith, we have our faith. You have your religion, we have our religion. We respect you, respect us. But we're not going to engage in such activities. Yes? So the shaitan comes and whispers from the right. And also, he comes and whispers from where? The left. Correct? He comes and whispers from the left. And this is really interesting. And I'm going to say something here about watching I'm going to say the title first, and if any of the parent is uncomfortable about their children being here, I'm going to give you a few seconds to take them away. But it's very important for me to talk about this. It's about explicit materials online. It starts with a P. Okay? I'm going to talk about it. If you are uncomfortable, your children, you don't want them to hear it, you're very, very welcome to leave. But I have to talk about it. It's my duty to talk about it. Okay? And this is the issue of pornography. It's a disease, not just in our communities, but in society as a whole. What does the shaitan do when he comes from the left? He comes and he will say, I will make lust and desire overcome your judgment. And I will make sure that this desire, you can't control yourself. Even when you know that it's forbidden for you to do this particular act, you will still do it. Because your desire is too much. It's intensified. And I think one of the best examples is pornography. We know that this is happening amongst the adults, but more importantly amongst children. And they say it starts at around the age of 11 to 14. They've done surveys on this amongst the Muslim communities, right? And they found that 59%, this is one particular study, I can give you a reference later on, whoever wants. They said many Muslim, most of them are young, 59% of them in a study actually watch pornography. 59% of those who participated in that particular study. Of these, 83% were males and 17% were females. They said one of the reasons was that they couldn't cope with boredom. Yes? So sometimes there is boredom, can't cope with boredom, and to lesser extent to process negative emotions such as frustration and sadness, loneliness. Right? And then sometimes you're sitting in front by yourself, you've got the whole internet right in front of you. Yes? And then this youth is discovering themselves, or even the adults, they feel the urge, they have a desire, which is normal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created that desire. And how can I actually practice and make sure that I fulfill this desire? I don't have anyone watching me. Of course, Allah is watching me, but I'm not really conscious because the shaitan has come from the left. Yes? And he's whispering, he said, I know it's haram, but look man, you just do it. Okay? No one's watching you, just do it. And then you go online and the whole world of pornography is there for you to watch whatever you like. And it's very dangerous, my dear brothers and sisters. Number one, it's been shown that it affects negatively on your mind. And not just that, my dear younger brothers and sisters, it is haram. That's number one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbids us watching these particular images. And number two, it's really bad for you. It's bad for your spirituality. It takes you away from God, and also bad for your mental health. But, oh parents, we need to wake up. We need to know what our children are watching. We need to know what they're doing online. We spoke a bit about this yesterday. Yes? The urge is there. The shaitan will come and use the opportunity of the urge, of the desire. Shaitan knows there is desire. Say, well, it's okay. It's all right. Just go and type this on Google. Find whatever this. Look at these images. And once they start, unfortunately, it's very difficult to stop. It's like an addiction. It is an addiction. Pornography is an addiction. Okay? And it's important we talk about these particular things. And they say that many of these respondents believe they cannot turn to their families, 79%, or the Muslim community for support. It's very difficult to talk about it, isn't it? Yes? Because it's a taboo topic. And they said that holding a belief that the activity is immoral is not, listen to this, they said the activity, holding a belief that this activity is immoral, they know this is immoral, is not enough of a deterrent to engage in such a behavior. It's not a deterrent, because the desire is too much. The shaitan comes from the left and does what? And tries to tells you that I know it's a desire that you have. I know that God is watching you. But look, what can you do? This is a desire you have. Just go ahead with it. And this is probably the most difficult of the whispers of the shaitan, the one on the left. Yes, so we must beware. And I invite the community here and other communities to start engaging and talking about these particular important topics. Right? And if there are people who are addicted, then we must give them help. Provide help for them. There is counseling. There are ways to try to remove this particular addiction. But most importantly, talk to our children about these things and say that they do exist before they go and discover it. If you're like someone, alhamdulillah, no one walked out as far as I can see, but if you are someone who's very protective of your child, they say, no, I don't want my child to know. They probably know better than you, mate. You and I, about all these things. Okay? It's all over social media, it's all over the internet. So, which one is better for your child to go and watch and discover by themselves, or for you to come and start talking to them when it becomes age of, say, 10, 11? Start talking to them that there is really indecent images out there. If you come across it, sometimes in an advert, you might come across it. It says haram, it's not good for your soul. Anytime you want to talk to me about it, come and talk to me about it. The mother talks to the daughter, the father talks to the son. Yes? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And we talked about, of course, and you guys are going to hate me for saying this, neuroplasticity. We talked about how we can use our mind, how we can use our brain in order for us to restructure. And there's a lot to talk about neuroplasticity and gratitude. But I'm going to end with 3 ways for daily gratitude. If we want to become shakireen, and we talked about the importance of being one who is what? A shakir, correct? You all are convinced that the shaitan comes from all different ways so that I don't become shakir. His objective is don't become shakir. He could have said so that they don't become musallin or sa'imeen or whatever. No, he said so they don't become shakireen. So in order for us to stand strong against the shaitan, you're not going to come and front, back, left and right. No, you're not. Right? We have a shield. And the shield we know is the Quran and the AhlulBayt. We know that particular shield is the Quran and the AhlulBayt. That's why we sit in the majalis of Abu Abdullah, to get the shaitan away from us. Correct? But more on a practical basis, daily gratitude. 3 things, I've called them the 3 S's. SSS. I'm trying. Number 1 is shukrillah. See how I've done that? Shukrillah when you wake up. You know when you wake up, you know when you go to sleep, it's a form of death. You die. Your ruh is detached from you. Yes? You die. But you still, your heart, your physical body is still working. But the ruh detaches. And so when you wake up, it's another day that Allah has given you. It's a blessing that Allah has given you, that you are alive another day. How many of us, when we wake up, open our eyes? Shukran lillah. That's the first thing you should say. Not, oh, what time is it? Oh my God, I'm in a hurry. Oh, it's just my... No. Open your eyes. Shukran lillah. That's it. How long did that take? Half a second? You start your day by gratitude. Amazing. Really is. Really, really is. How many of us are going to do this? Practically. Inshallah. From tomorrow, wake up, the first thing, thank you God for giving me another day. Maybe the day after I'm not given. I know friends who've died in their sleep. My age. They've died in their sleep. Yes? You wake them up, they don't wake up. It's a form of death. Correct? So when you open your eyes, shukran lillah. Number 2, sajdat al-shukr. Another S, sajdat al-shukr after every salah. You do sajdat al-shukr, be in a state of prostration to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after salah. So when you finish the salah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, straight away shukr lillah. And they say sajdatay shukr, so you do 2 sajdat of shukr. If you can't do 2, just do 1. And when you go down in sujood, we've talked about that's the closest position to Allah, you say shukran lillah. For everything. For everything, oh Allah. Even if you're going, especially if you're going through a problem or calamity. Because Allah does not need this from you. It is for you. وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ I will increase for you. But just do shukr. Get the shaitan away from here. Show the shaitan that you're not coming to me, mate. Right? Not your mate, but you know. The last S is what I've called sleep gratitude. Right? Is you name 3 things before you go to sleep that you are grateful to. So, you go to sleep, name 3 things. 3 things. For your health, for your family, and for your wealth. Easy. Maybe you can repeat that or come up with new things. Yes? 3 things. If you want just 1 thing. Call it sleep gratitude. Just before you go to sleep, gratitude. When you wake up, gratitude. After every salah, gratitude. This is daily gratitude. It's called the SSS. Again, don't Google it. Okay? SSS. Right? Special Forces. SSS. Shukran lillah when you wake up. Sajdatay shukr after every salah. And sleep gratitude. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And of course, when we go back to Karbala, and this is the time, these particular nights, my dear brothers and sisters, let's open our hearts to Karbala. And when we open our hearts to Abu Abdullah Al Hussain and his family and his companions, and we know, we are certain that they were in a state of gratitude. When going for martyrdom and battlefield in the lands of Karbala, they were grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving them this opportunity, of course. Yes? Today, tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, is the night of Al-Qasim, the son of Al-Imam Al-Hasan, salamullahi alayhi. But he had a very special relationship with his uncle, Abu Abdullah Al-Hussein. When Al-Qasim, salamullahi alayhi, approached Imam Al-Hussein, he told him, "Oh uncle, do I have your permission to fight?" Al-Hussein, salamullahi alayhi, he said, "Stay with your family, with the family. They need you, O Qasim." Narrations say that he said, "You going to meet the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and I stay here, O uncle?" But then Hussein salamullahi alayhi went to Zainab's tent. Hussein salamullahi alayhi asked Zainab, he said, "Where is the box that Imam al-Hasan salamullahi alayhi has left? Where is the box that my brother left? The box that contained his clothes." Narrations say that he took out Hassan's turban and put it on Al-Qasim's head. Narrations say that he took Hassan's shield and gave it to Al-Qasim. Narrations say that he took the sword of Imam al-Hasan salamullahi alayhi and he gave it to Al-Qasim, his son. And then Abu Abdullah al-Hussein gave permission for the brave youth Qasim to go and fight in the lands of Karbala. I just want you to imagine the scene. Oh fathers, oh mothers, this is a young individual who wanted martyrdom, who went into battlefield so that you and I know the true religion of Islam, know the true meaning of gratitude, so that you and I will sit here in a majlis reciting these particular stories. And so Abu Abdullah gave permission for this young child to go, this young teenager to go and fight for the religion of Islam. Narrations say that he came out with a face looking like a full moon, bearing a sword and wearing a shirt and a mantle. On his feet he wore sandals. Al-Qasim said, "In tutrikuni fa'ana najlul Hasan صبط النبي المجتبى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصقوا صوب المزون." The sandals while he was battling in Karbala. O Hussainiyun, the sandal string on his left foot was cut off. Narrations say that it wasn't custom on the battlefield to fight barefoot. So Al-Qasim salamullahi alayhi, he stopped for a moment to tie his sandals, regarding those enemies as no more valuable than his own sandal, paying no heed to their multitude, feeling his unconcerned about their thousands. While he was tying his sandals, a man attacked him. He hit Al-Qasim with the sword on his head. Qasim fell face forward, carrying out, "Oh uncle, oh Hussein, oh uncle, oh Abu Abdullah." Al-Hussein approached Al-Qasim. He killed his killer, and then when the dust settled, Hussein saw Al-Qasim lying on the ground. Qasim pushing his legs in agony. It's like when a baby pushes his legs in agony. Qasim was pushing his legs in agony. Al-Hussein said, away with the people who have killed you, while their opponent on the day of judgment will be your grandfather. Then he said, hard it is by Allah that you call upon your uncle to help you and he cannot answer your call, or that he does answer it but cannot do much for you. It is a lone voice whose enemies are numerous and whose supporters are few. Then he carried him away, O mu'mineen. Al-Qasim was on Hussein's chest. His legs were dragging on the ground. Al-Hussein put the corpse beside that of Ali al-Akbar and those of his family who had been killed. He was witnessing one by one were disappearing. Hussein put his hand under Qasim's head. Narrations say that he looked at his son Al-Qasim and was proud of him. Then he raised his eyes to the heavens and supplicated, O Allah, O Allah, count their numbers and do not leave any of them alone, and do not forgive a single one of them. Be patient, O cousins. Be patient, O my AhlulBayt. You shall never meet any hardship after today at all. There's a famous Arabic poet who recited this. This particular recitation is a famous poetry in Arabic, usually recited in al-majalis. Allow me to recite this to you. Al-amsi kanu ma'i wal-yawm qad rahalu. Yesterday they were with me, and today they have departed. وخلفوا في سويد القلب نيرانا, leaving within the depths of my heart burning fires. نذر علي لئن عادوا وإن رجعوا. I vowed that if they ever return and indeed come back, لأزرعن طريق الطف ريحانا. I will plant along the path of kindness a fragrant basil. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. ماتم يا حسين.
من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم أستغفر الله العظيم من كل ذنب عظيم أستغفر